The journey I want to talk to you about, the change maker journey, started on exactly the same day 20 years ago. It was the 9th of September, the 11th of September 2001. And I was in Toronto at the Toronto Film Festival with a new film, Everybody Says I'm Fine, which was directed by a debut director, Rahul Bose. And when I reached Toronto a couple of days earlier, I was delighted to find my very old friend, Ashutosh Gawarikar, who was also in Toronto with his film Lagan, and his producer, Amir Khan. And we had dinner the night before, and we just heard that Meera Nair won the Golden Lion for her film Monsoon Wedding. She came to Toronto. On the night of the 10th, Meera invited Ashutosh and me. She says, come very early. I'm having an 8 o'clock in the morning show of Monsoon Wedding. Come and see the film before the hordes descend and you won't even get standing space in the auditorium. And Ashutosh Gawarikar and me, dressed in black, carrying our coffees, went at 8 in the morning to the auditorium, and a delightful 2 hours watching Meera Nair's Monsoon Wedding. And when we came out of the cinema at about 10:30, the world had changed. There was not a soul on the streets of Toronto. There was a cold wind blowing, everything was grey, and there was nobody. And I said, Ashutosh, it's 10:30 in the morning. Surely there should be people, there should be cars, there should be buses, there should be pedestrians. There was nobody. And as we walked into the Film Festival Centre, the headquarters of the Toronto Film Festival, we saw that the lobby was deserted and people were huddled in one corner where there was a giant television screen. Some were moaning, some were crying. Most of them were staring shell-shocked at that screen. And both Ashutosh and me realized that 2 planes had hit the World Trade Center. And our lives changed at that point. And for the first time, I realized how close I was to danger. You know, leading a secluded life in Bombay made it very difficult for me to understand. And my entire thought process changed that day. And it is ironic that I am talking to you at this TED Talk on the anniversary of 9/11. About 10 years ago, when I turned 50, I decided that the time had come to start giving back. I think giving back is one of the most important things that we must do. We have to give back what we've got. The success, the fame, the money is all very well, but the entire process of real life is about giving back. And I decided, apart from being a teacher, I would like to give back all the experiences that I have, because media and entertainment are not very well received professions because of prejudices, because people don't think that it's the right place for their children, because most parents think that, this is what other people do. And I decided I would start teaching. But I didn't know how to, because I wasn't a teacher. And I went to my old friend Shamak Dawa, and Shamak has one course called the 1-year program. It's an intensive course. And he said, Vivek, I'd be very happy if you came once a week and worked with my students on cinema. And that was my change-making journey. I started by teaching children who were great dancers. And I started teaching them about cinema. And one of my students came to me and said, sir, I love you very much, but I don't need you anymore. I am very, very happy to save you some time and trouble by not being at your class. So I said, what's the problem? He said, no, it's okay. I mean, you're a busy actor, you're a busy producer, you're a busy director. I know you take out time to come to us. I said, no, buddy, that's not a problem. It's what I chose to do, and I'm very happy to do it. He said, no, sir, I'll save your time. And he dismissed me. And I said to myself, what's the problem? So I said, buddy, what's the problem? And he takes this out from his pocket and he says, sir, I don't need you anymore. I have Google. So I said, what? He said, I have Google. I have all the answers now. I don't need you. So I'll save your time. So I said, fine. I'm going to ask you one question. And if you can answer it tomorrow, you will not need me. And I agree with that. And I asked him a question. It was a trick question. And he could not answer it. And I had to sit with him and the whole class, and I had to explain to them that Google can only give you information. Translating that information into knowledge is the job of your teacher, is the job of your mentor. And in conversations, deep, long conversations with your mentors, that knowledge turns into wisdom, and that wisdom is what stands you good stead all your life. But the moment I taught him that, and the moment I told my students that, I realized that I would have to become an ungoogleable teacher. I had to work towards creating a situation where I could give them answers to questions that they could not find on Google. For example, there was no point in teaching them the height of Mount Everest. They just have to press a button and it's there in front of them. In fact, how to climb Mount Everest, that is not on Google. And that is what we do as teachers. A long time ago, my friend, a colleague from the film industry, and even before that from theatre, Ronnie Screwvala, at one of the Wiki conferences, he sat and he said that the real change maker will be technology. And all of us were agog because we were at the cusp. We were still shooting on film. We were still processing and editing without digital. Most people didn't have laptops. Internet had just come into being. This was maybe 30 years ago, maybe 28 years ago. And Ronnie said there will come a time when we will be able to do everything, every single thing by using a gadget. And since I was close to not only theatre and cinema and various other common interests, post that conference, I was with him in his car and we were driving home and I said, Ronnie, I didn't understand. He said, what is there to understand? I said, how many gadgets are we supposed to carry? So he said, everything will be on one gadget. So I said, what do you mean? School children will not need to carry books to school? He said, no. Every single textbook will be on that gadget. So I said, it sounds like a computer, like a giant supercomputer. He said, yes. I said, but that supercomputer will be the size of a full building. It has to be so big. It's carrying every textbook in the world. He said, no, it will be that small. That's where technology is going to take you. It's going to be a change maker. Okay. And he said, Viveck, you're fond of films. I said, yes. He said, you go to the cinema every day? I said, I go every day. And I enjoy it. He said, imagine if every single film in the world, Hindi films, Bollywood films, Hollywood films, Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam cinema, European cinema, American cinema, was all on the same gadget along with the textbooks of the students. I said, so how do I see these? Do I connect this gadget to television? He says, no, it'll have a screen. You'll be able to sit and watch movies on it. I said, really? He said, yes. And every single book in the world that you want to read, Agatha Christie and James Hadley Chase and Biggles and Enid Blyton and every single author in the world will also be in the same gadget. By now my head was spinning. I said, a gadget that will carry every book in the world, every film in the world. He added, he said, every single bit of music in the world. I said, how is that possible? I love Lata Mangeshkar and Kishore Kumar songs. And some of them are even 50 years old. He said, every song in the world will be on that gadget. Every film will be on the gadget. Every television serial will be on that gadget. And your phone book, your entire phone book will be on that gadget. And your whole office will be on that gadget. And your secretary will be on that gadget. And your pad and your pen and your notes will be on that gadget. I said, poor Ronnie's had too much to drink at this conference tonight. What is he talking about? A few years later, Shekhar Kapoor at a conference said, there will come a time when there will be no prints. There will come a time when there will be no cinema. there will come a time when, let's say, the 6th or the 7th or the 8th Spider-Man movie or the 10th Spider-Man movie will just be uploaded on one link. And the whole world will have a 10-minute window at noon or some such to pay their $5 or their $10 and download the film into their. And at that point, the first time he used the word phone, he said onto their phones. And the film will earn $10 billion because a billion people will download it in 10 minutes. And that harked me back to what Ronnie Screwvala had said about this. And I talked to him, he said, yes, it's going to be called telephony. That gadget is going to be in the shape of a phone. And you are going to be having that phone, and you're going to have all the movies on that, and you're going to be having books and music and textbooks and your office space and everything. And there's 100 people developing things so that all these things can be on this gadget. And I said, Ronnie, by then a little bit of internet, people had desktop computers, laptops were not that common. It was prohibitively high in terms of the cost. And again, they told me, they said, no, Vivek, in time to come, in the next 2 decades, and you will be alive to see this evolution, Mr. Viveck Vaswani, it will almost be free. For a couple of ₹100 a month, you will be able to do all this on a small gadget. You'll be able to talk to anyone in the world on that gadget without having to pay for trunk call charges. You will be able to write letters and messages to anyone in the world without having to put it in the post box. And it will be cheap, it will be inexpensive. And he used these words. He said it will almost be free. And it's come true. Today, all of us are carrying smartphones. And our smartphones have our movies in it, have our web series in it, have our favorite shows on it, have our favorite music on it, have our favorite books on it, which we can download and read. We have a bunch of apps. They look after our hotel bookings. They look after our travel bookings. They look after appointments that they have. They book taxis for us. They book hotel rooms for us. They book airline tickets for us. Everything is being done on the smartphone. And that is indeed a change maker. And all these thoughts flashed in my head when I was talking to my students to become an ungoogleable teacher. And I started making notes. And those notes actually became into notes that I would deal with my students and have conversations with them. And finally, those notes refined themselves and I made a film. And I called it Rough Book because in my days, we never had phones. We had actually a book in which we used to scribble and we used to write rough notes and we used to keep that rough book. And from that rough book, we would write things onto our fair notes into what we called our fair books. But I just didn't want to make any ordinary film. We have had enough versions of To Serve With Love. So I decided I would tackle the education system. And the one thing that came to me was that we don't have temples of education anymore. We have shopping malls of education. And that became an important component of the film. We don't have students, we have customers. We don't have temples of education, we have shopping malls of education. And I tell you, in my days, if I went to school and I misbehaved, and I was a very naughty child, I must tell you, when I misbehaved, I would be spanked, soundly spanked. And I'd come home crying, or not crying as I grew older. And I told my mother, I said, they hit me, yeah. I'm your son, why are they hitting me? So she wouldn't take my side. She would look at me and say, Vivek, what did you do wrong? I didn't do anything wrong, Mom. No, they don't hit you without a reason. What did you do wrong? I did nothing wrong. Maybe I reached class 2 minutes late. Maybe or... No, not maybe, Mom. I reached class 2 minutes late. 2 minutes? Maybe 3 minutes. That's 10% of his time gone because it's a 30-minute class. I would have wasted you more than him. Our parents were not sympathetic to us when we went to them for sympathy, because according to them, you can either get success in life or you can get sympathy. Both don't work. And our teachers were our gurus. The same teachers used to hit me badly would be there waiting if I fell down in the playground, and they would sit there and they would help me and be there with me until my parents came or the doctor came. They loved us. And I tell you students this today, 50 years or 45 years after I've left school, your teachers love you as much today as they loved us 45 years ago. That's why they chose to be teachers. They haven't chosen to be salespeople. They haven't chosen to be customer service. They haven't chosen to look after you only during your class time. I tell you today, my students call me up at 9 in the night, 6 in the morning, whenever they need help, whenever they need guidance, whenever they need anything, we are there for them. And I tell you students, every single one of your teachers is available to you now, then and forever, because they are teachers. Because for them, it is still a temple of education. So I thought all these thoughts, and I realized when I made Rough Book, which led to it going to be screened in more than 400 schools, which led to me teaching children exactly the way I wanted to, using Rough Book as a medium, which finally led me to becoming the Dean of the School of Contemporary Media at Pearl. I realized that the real change makers were teachers. The real change makers were those who guided us, mentored us, trained us, counseled us, and changed our lives from the time we were 5-year-old until the time we chose to study. And I tell you one thing, every teacher is still a student, because as they teach you, they learn as well. I know I did. The more I teach, the more I learn. They come as my students, they leave as my friends. So, who is a change maker? It is not technology. Technology is a change maker and will keep on changing form. It will change substance. It will change shape. It will change size for the rest of its life. It is very important for us to understand this. And I'm very grateful that I had an opportunity today of saying these things to you. Thank you very much. I'm indeed grateful to have been here. God bless you.